Recorded live from the Washington, D.C. metro area. You're listening to Seasoned for Success, hosted by Rob Ross.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Learn from a melting pot of industry leaders and find the right ingredients for success.
Well, that kicked us off with a bang.
I agree.
Yeah, there you go. Nothing you can't buy on Fiverr if you've never used it. You can have someone make that for like $50, so it's not real hard. But it's a little catchy tune there to get started. Well, I'm excited for today's podcast. I know we had this scheduled a few weeks ago, but as real estate and life has it, we both got tugged a couple different directions and were unable to connect that last time. But happy to be back on here today. We'll do a little intro. My name's Rob Ross, host of Season for Success podcast. Also run the Ross Group over at Intercoastal Mortgage in Fairfax, Virginia. And I wanted to bring on a special guest and friend of mine, Carolyn Young, tonight, just because she's an industry rock star. And that term gets thrown out there for a lot of folks. And I can tell you, she truthfully is one. Her and Hans and their entire team are truthfully amazing. And I'm really excited to kind of peel back some of the onion and look under the hood, if you will, at kind of how she's gotten to where she's at, nationally ranked in many categories and stats and statistics, and works very in depth with Zillow, and she's going to get into all that. But the crazy part is she's in the billions, right? So I just asked her before we hit record, where are you? And it's like, you used to not track it back in the day. I'm still right. Billions is the answer in real estate transactions. And the crazy number is in the last 4 years, over $1 billion. So there are real estate agents looking to do 10 deals a year, 5 deals a year. To say you've done $1 billion in the last 4 years really would blow anyone's mind. So kudos to you and your team. But I'm more excited to, like I said, I've known you for a while, but I know I'm going to learn something today. So that's what excites me. So without any further ado, I'm gonna kick it over to Carolyn, and if you wouldn't mind starting, just give us a little bit of your background, kind of how you got into the industry, why you got into it, and give us a little background there.
So, I have to really think, Rob, about why I got into it or how I got into it, because it was about 32 years ago. So it's been a while. So
it's been a minute.
Yeah. So honestly, I think what drew me to it was the fact that I was in a room one day talking to some people, and someone was going to get their real estate license, and somebody else there had their license. And I was like, how long do you have to go to school for that? Because I need to do something with kind of instant results. I didn't want to go to school for 4 to 6 years to wait for, and that's the great thing about real estate. They're like, you can get your license in 2 weeks. And I'm like, wow. That's it.
Let's go.
So I, was just super excited about it. Had never been in sales before. So I decided, I'm just going to go for it, and got my license, hung it. I had, as a rookie agent, I had fairly good success. That was, of course, 32 years ago. And, but I think the fact that, knowing that your efforts are the limit of your destination. And I thought, I don't know any other industry other than lending, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm right with you.
I'm not much of a numbers person as I am a people person. So I figured I'll stick with real estate rather than mortgage lending.
There you go.
And it's just, it's worked out great. It's been a great fit for me. And of course, I've evolved it in many different ways over the past, 32 years.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's same with mortgage. I had friends ask me when I first got in the business, what's, 4-year college degree, finance major, this, but why mortgage? And I was like, I want to know that the harder I work and the more effort I put into it, the more I can get out of it, not just financially, but rewarding in 100 other ways. Right. So,
yes.
Obviously financially being very important, but but no, I couldn't agree more with,
I think too, that you're really in this industry, you're helping people make one of the biggest decisions of their life. Like, right? It's, real estate's a huge investment. It's people's home. And so it's rewarding. And of course, now I have a team. It's rewarding to see team members grow, to see happy clients. Like I really do, even though I've been in it for 32 years, I'm still really passionate and I love the industry.
How long were you a solo agent before you hired a true team? And when I say a team member, well, any team member, like before you had a transaction manager to yourself, or not necessarily another full-time agent as part of your team, but when did you decide to grow?
So there's been a couple different lives of Carolyn. So I was an agent on my own starting in, and I did, I guess it took me, let's say I was in the industry for about, 4 or 5 years before I would probably hit like, 15 to 20 million a year. And I plateaued there maybe for like 14 years. Right.
Okay.
So I was in the industry. And during the time when I was growing, Rob, I had, maybe after I was in it for about 4 years, I hired an assistant. I had a couple buyer agents in here and there that kind of worked out, kind of didn't. But when I really truly started to grow my team was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's when things really shifted. And I think, what happened is that back when the whole internet came about, in the late 80s, I was with a lot of people in the county, in the area that, there was a lot of agents that would do 30, 40, 50 transactions. And like, that seemed to be like, you had a couple people here and there that would do like 100. You'd be like, wow,
Yeah.
But I think what happened is that that's when, all the online portals started coming out, with Zillow and all them. So I knew that a lot of changes were coming, and I said, I'm going to embrace it and invest heavily in it.
Yeah.
And then when the agents didn't, it's like the agents that were doing 40 or 50 then, that was easy because we all did business the same way. If you didn't jump on board, then maybe you started doing 15 or 20. And then I went to, almost 500 transactions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just, but we went heavily in on the online stuff. So anyway, but then we really launched it about 7 years ago when we went to, I don't know, this year we'll probably finish around, I don't know, 260 million.
Yeah. And that's just, it's crazy numbers to say out loud. And I think the part that you've embraced, from what I witnessed from my seat with different real estate agents and mortgage lenders for that matter on both sides of the industry, is they'll kind of go all in on one thing, and you don't do that. And what I mean by that is some agents want to, it's all about internet referrals. They forget all about their sphere of influence. They forget all about client appreciations. They forget all about the stuff that maybe helped get them there, right? The shaking hands and kissing babies, right? They forget about that part. They're like, I have to do one or the other. You can do both, right? And I've witnessed it with yourself and Hans and your team. Your agents will go above and beyond to make a deal happen, right? To make a deal happen, being to help a client, right? If it's move something, throw down mulch, help with landscaping, stage a home, like it's everything that's needed to keep a client happy and make a deal work. And it's not.
Yeah, I agree.
It's what you do, getting the internet, getting the lead if you're using Zillow, right? And you can talk about that in a little bit, but getting the lead itself is just, that's a small portion of it. It's what you do with it when you get it and how you handle it and follow up with it. That's where I think that's where the rubber meets the road on a lot of this stuff. And
I agree. And, and I think really even, there's a lot of facets, even if you're an individual agent or no matter what as an agent, you have to have a minimum. Like we probably have like 16 lead sources, but you got to pick your pillars and build them. But no agent should operate less than 6. No agent, because if one collapses, your business.
Yeah, you're done. Is your top source Zillow? Is that?
I would say that, so yeah, we do Zillow.
Yeah.
We're a Zillow partner on the buy side. And we happen to be, actually, I just got off with so they launched Seller Connections last year.
Yeah.
In October in our area. They started it like in March. So I think that we have, I don't know, like 180 partners now on Zillow Connections. They're very hard to get to be a partner on Zillow Connections. They go through your whole listing presentation. It's just a lot of stuff. Anyway, so we got it for this area. There is 2 other partners in our local area, but we're actually in the whole MSA. We're the number 1 top converting. Actually, on the Seller Connections, we're number 1 in the country.
I thought you were. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that stat.
And actually now we're number 1 on the buy side too. So
Yeah.
so we're just good converters, and really it's like you said, Rob, it's not, I have a lot of people even in Zillow asking me how we're converting so much and all. It's just that, it's not hard in this industry to do well and to stand out because, let's face it, most people don't want to do the work.
They don't want to do the work. And there was a book sitting on my shelf at work, and I forget the exact title of it, but it's basically Call Reluctancy. And it's wild to meet someone that says, I love sales and I love working with people, but they're reluctant to pick up the phone and make a phone call. I'm like, how can you be both? Right. And there's a lot of that. And I think part of it is there's a lot of that. And it kind of blows my mind, but it's you have to be there, right? Be there, be in front of the people and the clients and make the phone call and put in the effort. And it's just part of it. Now, do you have some inside sales agents, and then you have some folks that don't do that, right? So do you pretty much have 24/7 call support, right? So
yeah, we have someone watching all the time.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I was trying to find, and I can't remember exactly, but I did a call with Tom. There was a few of us on the call, Tom Ferry. I do a lot of coaching with him. But one of the things is that you can't be disappointed in the results that you get from the work that you did not do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It all goes.
I'm gonna use that at our corporate sales meeting tomorrow. Literally, I think I'm going to use that tomorrow. So
it's like, come on.
It's that time of the year, right? It's December 10th. So I just kicked out an email to our team at our company, to all of our sales folks saying, hey, it's, if you haven't started your business planning, you're probably a little behind. And if you haven't started, it's okay. But you got 3 weeks here till the year hits. So
honestly, 2025 started, November 1.
But it did. Yeah. And that's the only way to make it happen. I think some folks will shake off and dust off the business plan from last year and update a couple things, which might work, but it's going to be an interesting year. I don't know the stat. How many? I saw that it was 80,000 plus licensed loan officers gave up their license number over the past 24 months, something like that. Right around there. Is there a similar stat in real estate?
Do you want to hear some crazy stats?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's in the United States, there's 1.6, it's 1.5, 1.6 million agents.
Okay.
1 million of them have not sold a home year to date.
Yeah. Well, that's
just, I was
70%.
So floored that, the whole 80-20 rule, 20% of the people do 80% of the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 5% to 95%. So
yeah,
it's just because the people that are digging into it are becoming more knowledgeable, more of a value, and trying to lead in the industry versus just, pop out, show someone a house, and write a contract. That just business isn't done like that.
Yeah. It's hard to be, I've always said it's hard to be a part-time loan officer. It's hard to be a part-time realtor. I'm not saying some people can't do it successfully. I get that. Some people can do it, but
it's not easy.
It's not easy. And more so often than not, you don't want someone helping you buy which is typically, like you said, the biggest purchase of your life is typically a house. Although I had a client in Fairfax, Virginia years ago. It was a single guy. He was 30. He bought this is 17 years ago. He bought a condo in Fairfax near the Fair Oaks Mall. He spent 200 or 210,000 on a 1-bed, 1-bath condo, and he had a $250,000 Lamborghini. So he's the only client that I can recall that his car was more expensive than his house, and he just bought both within a couple months of each other. So I've had that once, but I'm sure it's out there again. But that I always thought that one was funny. He said he was never getting married and didn't want a girlfriend, but he wanted his Lamborghini and his condo. So he got what he wanted. Well, I don't know if he still might be there. So that was always funny to me. So, like what with your team, like how do you stay on top? I know you coach and you mentioned Tom Ferry and there's a lot of folks out there to stay on top of market trends. Like how do you stay on top of like local market trends? So, well, and let me ask you this, just so the audience knows here, where do you help people with real estate? Like where are you licensed?
So I'm definitely a little bit unique because we're in Western Loudoun County, right? So I'm a lifetime resident of the area. I have a lot of knowledge of Fairfax, Loudoun, because I would say that's primary. But then we are so close, like 15 minutes to Frederick, Maryland, 15 minutes to West Virginia. So I have a team. Most of my team members are licensed in all 3 states.
Yep.
But we do business in all 3 states.
Yep.
I definitely have some agents that only do Maryland, mainly Western Maryland, like Frederick, and then I have agents in Jefferson, West Virginia, and then of course we do quite a bit of business in Loudoun and Fairfax.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you don't focus as much in the district DC, right?
No, I do have, my husband Hans, he's, which is my partner. He's licensed in DC, and we did a couple sales in DC, but we don't do a lot in DC.
Yeah, I get it. I don't do near as much there as I used to back in the day either. There's enough in Northern Virginia to for
keep
all
you
for
busy.
all of us. Yeah, keep you busy for sure. So, so with building a team, how many agents are you up to right now on your team? And then what's your plan for the team? Is it to keep expanding?
Well, the one thing too, just to go back, you were asking how to stay on top of market trends.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, like when you're doing, as much business, and I'm sure like you guys too, you guys are really busy, but when you're in the market all the time, we should sell about 475 homes this year, but you have your pulse on the market because you're in the market.
You are the market in some cases, right?
It's not too hard to get a quick grasp on what's going on. But I tell you, one of the best leading sources of information that I just have to give them a shout. I love them. It's Keeping Current Matters. Steve Harney, he passed away this past year, but Dave Childress, and they run it. Like it's just amazing information that we use a lot to share with our clients too. So,
yeah. We have something similar. We use MBS Highway, which is Barry Habib's system, and it does all sorts of stuff: market trends, market analysis, rent versus buy, all that stuff. So enough bells and whistles to keep you busy for a full day.
Exactly.
Plenty there. But yeah, you really get a feel for the market with the clients themselves. It was interesting over the past month how many buyers we talked to that would either get pre-approved or they would say, we're going to call you after the election. I heard a lot of that. It was just, and regardless of the result, it's funny. I finally asked a client, I said, hey, I'll never get political in real estate. That's just
me either.
And I just said, let me ask you a question though. I said, so you're saying you want to wait till after the election to get pre-approved? And they're like, yes. And I was like, so is the result of the election going to cause you to either get pre-approved or not get pre-approved? And they said, good question. And they said, no. They said, we're getting pre-approved regardless of what happens. And I said, okay. And I said, so kind of just for my own knowledge, just because I've heard this lately. So why wait? And they're like, well, we're not sure if we want to buy, but we think we're going to get pre-approved. So it's not we just want to see if the world's going to basically come to an end is kind of what a lot of them are saying. They're like, we're worried like just something massive is going to blow up regardless of what happens, and real estate's going to crash. It's funny just how many consumers literally think that just like that real estate's going to crash. And maybe a lot of them are like still hurting from 2008, right? 2009. Maybe a lot of them had some pain back then and were a completely different scenario, right? But they, so I just found that interesting. A lot of folks were kind of on the sideline, and I'm sitting here saying spring market's going to be here before we know it, right? Spring. Each year it seemed like spring market, it's no longer March. All of a sudden spring market's last week of January, right? And it's just like spring market can hit very quickly. So it's interesting to see. But what are your thoughts on folks, buyers that are in the market right now thinking of buying? Do you have advice for them on waiting till spring market or not waiting till spring? I always find it interesting. What's the advice there for a buyer that says, Carolyn, I don't know, I'm pre-approved, I'm ready to buy, but I don't know if I should buy now, or I don't know if I should buy in the spring market. If a buyer asks you that question, and maybe you have several answers.
I would tell you that, are you aware over the past 30 years, the average appreciation in the market is at 5% per year.
Yeah.
So I would have to ask you, like, this house that you're looking at 500,000, you want to wait a year, it could be 525. So, there's no perfect way to time the market, but if we find you a nice product at a good price, what would stop you from buying now?
Correct. That's a great answer. And that sometimes they'll ask me, I always defer. I'm like, listen, talk to your real estate agent. I don't want to, step on toes, but I will say, hey, go look at housing appreciation over the last 30, 40 years. Like,
it's like you can, that you can't time the stock market perfect. You can't time the real estate, but if someone can find you a deal that you want, the 30-year, what in the historic average on interest rates, if correct me if I'm wrong, is 7% too.
Yeah, correct.
Or 6%. So if you can get, an average rate and the appreciation is, stable in our market, like why would you want to wait?
Well, and some clients will say, well, I want to wait because I heard rates are going down this year. I'm like, one word, refinance. Like what?
Yeah. But secondly, if rates do dip down, historically, what always happens, you're going to get more offers on the house and you could potentially pay more for the house. So, right. Buy now. If they go down, refinance. And then you got the best of both worlds.
What's the term? Marry the home and date the rate.
Yeah.
So it's still true. So it's those are some of the most common questions that clients throw out there though. So let me ask you with if you had to, so this might be a tough question. So this might not be fair to you because I didn't fully prepare you for this question, but if you had to pick one story, your most rewarding story for helping a client in 30 plus years, can you pick one? Or does one ring a bell like right off the bat that here's the most rewarding story and here's why? And or maybe the most successful story, right? Maybe do you have one specifically?
Gosh, there's been a lot of them over the years, right?
Yeah. Or what about like a client win where you were able to do something or help them that another agent might not have been able to do because of your expertise? Because I've witnessed it with you. So
I've had, like, I tell you one story that I really liked, actually, that we just helped them wrap it up a couple months ago. Sometimes when you do an estate sale, sometimes they're a nightmare because there's like 3 or 4 siblings and they all argue and, and it can just be really stressful. I mean, I had one I did where each sibling had their own attorney. So every email I'm in, and the email exchange was 4 attorneys for, it was just like, oh my gosh, it's like a nightmare. But I did one recently where it was 4 of them and it was just a tragic loss of their brother. So they were all similar age and they were all siblings. But, met with them, came up with a plan, and it was just very meaningful for them. They were all, still in a state of shock of everything. But it was just really cool to work together with them. We decided to improve the property, to sell it, to have more, gain on the property. And I don't know, just everything went really well. They went well. We got way more than they expected. And it was a fun transaction.
Yeah. And
Not that the circumstances were the best, but
I know what you meant. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
have been just more rewarding to help them have closure and put all this under them. So it was
Absolutely. Absolutely. A challenging scenario. We deal with that a lot on our side with like, divorce folks separating homes and work with a lot of divorce family law attorneys and stuff. And that,
exactly, and just helping people get in a better situation. Then I had another one this year that was, when you say a challenging, it was a property that was on, actually it was in Loudoun County, and it was on for 2 6-month periods with 2 local agents, but probably that not invest heavily online, right? And so I interviewed with them, and I had winter photos because we just did the sale actually. And they're like, well, our farm shows better in the spring. And the other agent had the spring photos, wouldn't sell them to me, of course. But they said, we're just going to go with her again because we don't want those ugly photos of our farm. And I said, well, I'd rather have ugly photos and the more advanced marketing than, like, don't worry about that. I said, I know I'm right about it. Anyway, it was a little hard to convince them. But the first 6 months they were on with the first agent, they had like 3 showings. The second 6 months they had 2. And I did all the online marketing, made a Zillow showcase, everything, but in the same price. It was 1,325, same price it went off the market at. And I put it back on and had 28 showings. I got 5 offers the first weekend.
Well, that's
yes. They were like they wasn't prepared for people showing the house because nobody showed. And they're like, oh my God, what do we do? I said, why don't you just go somewhere and stay for the weekend? Like, because so many people were coming in, it was bananas.
see that, and I think that statement, which is amazing, it circles clear back to where we started when we were talking about 1.7 million, 1.5 million agents, and 1 million of them haven't sold a home. It's like who you work with. It doesn't only matter, it matters so much, right? And
It really does.
it just does. And a lot of folks out there are just, oh, well, I'm going to use my friend who's a bartender and has a license on the side, and they're going to give me 1% back. And I'm like, you're going to get what you pay for. And it's just true. And you don't want to make that mistake when you're buying or selling a home. And look, I mean, the proof's in the pudding right there. You knocked 20 some showings that quickly. And I'm sure, but part of that is, now they're clients for life, right? So whether it's friends, family, coworkers, whoever they know, whenever they hear real estate, they're going to be excited to refer you. And that's part of having a 30-year history. In my case, a 24-year history, right? It's getting those,
building the relationships.
I had one recently. It was the first one in my career that was this, but it was a client I had helped a few years into my career, and she was pregnant. And I just now helped her daughter, who she was pregnant for, buy her first home. So that was the first one I experienced of that. And that was pretty cool to see that come full circle. And I told her, I said, I'm happy that I'm around to help your daughter buy her home. That's amazing. Because I remember when you came to my office and you were pregnant, I said, I sure as hope I'm not around to help your granddaughter. I said, I hope I'm retired by then. So she laughed at that one. And I said, so I thought that maybe the Ross Group will live on, and my counterparts.
Your legacy.
My legacy can help the granddaughter, but I still have a ways to go. But that was pretty funny. Well, I have a few fun questions for you, kind of at the end. It's always fun to talk through these. But is there any other advice or information you'd want to give out there to someone thinking of joining a team potentially too? And the reason I say this is, like, mortgage is a lonely industry, right? Real estate can be a lonely industry, and some folks don't want it. They're like, I've witnessed it where some real estate agents, they want to have their name on the team, or they want to be, and others want to be part of a team because they don't want all the pressure. But I've in the last 5 years, I've met some really good real estate agents that kind of had their own name brand and still joined a team. Because they're like, wait, this is still better to join a team. And here's why. Like, you can still, like, explain how your individual agents still they have their own brand still. They have their own flavor. They have their own database. They have, right. So the agents on your team are very, very good, and a lot of them are very seasoned, right? So I think some agents feel like joining a team, they lose their identity, and I don't think that's the case at all. So can you talk to that a little bit for any agents that are
So
maybe
I
thinking
would say every team's different, right?
yeah.
So on my team, we all brand under my name.
Yeah,
So
correct.
because it's the only way that you can have consistency and brand awareness.
Sure.
But everybody does have their own database they can work. But of course, we're a lead team, so they get a lot of leads,
Yeah.
a lot. But yeah, but but the deal is that, and I think about it sometimes, Rob. I've been doing this for a long time. If I just got into the industry or I was doing 20, 30, 40 transactions a year, I wouldn't want to be on my own because it's a lot of work, the systems that are required to really have, your website with AI integration, to have, closing managers, listing managers, to have everybody that can do everything is a one shop. It makes you can do a lot more business with a lot less stress.
Lead generation, database management, CRM, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's if you're just an individual agent jumping out there trying to do it and not with a good team and someone with experience such as yourself, it's like I said, it's a lonely. That's the 1 million, right? That's the that's the folks that aren't doing anything or struggling and they don't know where to get traction. So
Yeah,
so
exactly.
yeah, I know you're always looking to grow and expand. How many agents do you have on your team currently?
So we last year had 18, and but we got a lot of big plans for 2025. So I just onboarded about 9 more in the past few weeks. So we're
Yep.
hopefully my goal is to go into 2025 with about 35 agents. And
Yep.
we have 30 right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we have your information up on the screen there. So anyone that watches this, if you are interested in talking with Carolyn, we can get you in touch. I think if you just type the name Carolyn in Google, it's going to come up right away there. That's her. That's the power of the SOL, right? So that's going to be there. Let me ask you a few other questions. So fun question at the end. So with all this work and all this time, you and your husband and Hans, and you do grind, and I appreciate that. And it's everyone talks about work-life balance. You can have both. It's a great thing. You can have it, but you're truthfully available 24/7. It never ceases to amaze me, and you and Hans and your whole team for that matter. Let me ask you this: what outside of work do you have a favorite vacation spot, and why? So that's what we got to get to dig down a little bit. Do you have one that you want to go to? You can pick either one.
I mean, I've gone on, I definitely am. And there is people that have I'm the worst example of work-life balance ever because I like what I do. So I work.
Yeah, I get it.
know you do too, Rob. So,
I know.
But I work a lot. We've had
That's why I knew it was a tough question.
Yeah, it is. So I'm not, I go away on vacation. I can't wait to get back. So yeah, I want to do Greece this year. That's the plan. Of course, I have a place in Mexico down in Tulum. I love to go down there.
No, I didn't. That's awesome.
But I honestly, in my spare time, I love to train and work out. Like that's what I like to do. So
I love that.
I'm always planning an event. My older son and me have done a lot of events together. And so if I retire, that's what I would do. As a matter of fact, it's on my goal in 2029. I'm going to do Ironman Cozumel again. So
Wow,
I already
that's
told my
awesome.
son we're both doing it.
That's awesome.
So I love to train and do stuff. So
Yeah,
probably more of a passion to me than traveling or.
Well, you can do the cold plunge in between. I know I was talking with Hans about that at one point. So
He's a big cold plunger.
he is a big cold plunger. I have my 6-pack purchase for OM Float in Ashburn. I need to get back out there because I swear every time I leave there Like I walk out and I'm like, I think the sky's a little clearer and I can see the leaves. I'm like, like, I feel like I'm ready to run through a wall every time I get out. So
it makes you feel amazing, doesn't it?
It's wild. Yeah. I really do enjoy it. So, all right. Last question, personal related. Favorite concert you've ever been to?
I'd have to say, I've been to quite a few over the years. You can only imagine.
Yeah.
But I think still, when I was younger, right out of high school, my favorite concert I ever went to was Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I
just
him? Love Stevie Nicks.
Where did you see him?
I think back then it was at RFK Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah, long time ago.
Oh yeah. Well, that's mine is Nissan. Well, Jiffy Lube, right? Whatever it's called now.
That didn't exist when I went.
Yeah, and it was and it was Jimmy Buffett. And
I wanted to go to that one a few years ago, and
God rest his soul now too. So
I know it, and I wished I had gone, but I heard it was amazing.
And with Jimmy, it was like, I was like, oh, I'll be going to his concerts for 30 more years. Like he's immortal, basically, is what you thought with Jimmy Buffett. Like he's just, and so it's those concerts. My uncle lives up in Rhode Island, and he's a big concert guy, but he has this Facebook group that they talk about concerts and music, and it's hitting up some of these folks before they're gone too. It's like, you can't.
Yeah, you do think, and I thought that. I said, oh, maybe I'll go to the next one, and I'm like, oh man, I should have.
I know.
I heard it was amazing though. So yeah, good for you that you went.
Yeah, no, it was a good time. The year I went, I went here, and then I drove up the next weekend to Boston to my uncle's, and I went and saw Jimmy Buffett again that weekend with him in Boston. So I can't. This is literally like 19, 20 years ago. I can't remember where it was in Boston. It wasn't Fenway, but I can't remember where it was. But it was he had a truck. He opened up the tailgate, and he had like this makeshift bar that he like literally had a drill, and he like screwed this bar together, and then had the generator and the margarita machines, and it was like.
So you had a true tailgate party.
Oh, I was like, oh, Uncle John, do you need me to help set up or anything? He's like, you sit back. Here's a margarita, and it was great. So
that's awesome.
It was a true Jimmy Buffett tailgating experience. But
now let me ask you a question. I know you're interviewing me, but what are you seeing in the lending right now with the buyers? What are you seeing for the overall, feedback is from them?
2020. I'm going to say 2024 from a lending industry standpoint is much better than 2023. I think even from a corporate standpoint, as I help manage, a portion of ICM in general, I get to not just see under the hood of my own team, but other teams within our company. And 2023 was one of the roughest years in mortgage in the mortgage industry. Definitely in my career, 2023 and 2008 into 2009. My CEO would tell you, and my president Pete would tell you, it's 2023 was the toughest year in both of their careers combined. So it was just interesting. It was the perfect storm of everything, right? So 2024 has been fighting out of that still, and I really think what we always talk about on the lending side in our private sales meetings is it's still an inventory issue in a lot of ways, because all of our loan officers, like constantly in our sales meetings, it's our client lost an offer. There was 9 offers on this one home, and it was on the market half a day. They didn't even do the open house on a Sunday because they were done. They didn't need to.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of offers are accepted when our letterhead's there. Like we are a known company and group within the area. So we can actually win deals when we're on the other side. But we weren't losing deals because of ICA. We were losing deals because they were cash offers or the other buyer went 50,000 above our offer, right? And our clients just weren't comfortable with it. And that's not for us. That's you, right? We don't negotiate the price. We're not. That's our great real estate partners, such as yourself. You're helping them on that side. We're just showing them numbers, right? And we're saying, here's what you can afford. You're approved.
Well, I will say everybody knows if they see the Ross Group on there, they know that
Yeah.
Gonna get done.
It is satisfying when we can tell a client that, part of the reason they won was you're working with us. And that is a satisfying thing. And, we make sure to deliver on that front. So that does help. But yeah, I mean, I think what we're going to see in 2025 is finally the ARM market come back and some liquidity in that sector, or with that product, I should say. The 5, 7, and 10-year ARMs, really the 7 and 10 are popular. But rewind 18 years ago, if you had a 30-year fixed at 7%, a 5-year ARM would have been at 3% or 3.5%. There was a nice delta between the two. And what happened in the most recent couple of years is a client would call and say, Rob, where's a 30-year fix? And whatever, it's 6%. Okay. Whatever the number was that day. And they would say, okay, well, where's a 5-year ARM? And we're like 5.75. They're like, well, there's not much variance. Well, where's a 7-year ARM? 5.875. And where's the 10-year? It's the same as the 30-year. They're like, well, why would anyone do? There was no delta. So the difference got too small, and it was because these investors purchasing these ARMs, they didn't want them, right? And they weren't sticky enough for them in a lot of cases. So they wanted some stuff to stay on their books a little bit longer. But we're going to see that change. We're already seeing it. We're already hearing it. We're already talking to investors. We had a couple of our executives go up to we go up to New York every May, so we do that, and then we do the national secondary conference. I didn't attend for the first time in like 15 years, but two of my counterparts and executives at our company went out to Colorado, and there's positive news. So we're back in the driver's seat. And I do think the market we're in, I mean, Loudoun County is, I always mess this up. So I tell people that Loudoun County is one of the biggest counties. I've told people square footage wise, it's the largest county in the United States, or it's the second largest county. And I couldn't remember.
I should know that. I don't.
I think
I do know. I think it's one of the wealthiest counties in the country.
So it is the wealthiest per household income, but I think true square footage, like I think it's the second largest county in the United States behind Orange County, California. I think it might be. And I always thought that, but the way I know this is, as you know, I'm in Brambleton, Ashburn. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll have school called off for my kids, and I'll look outside and it's raining and there's no snow. But out on the border of West Virginia, driving down Route 9 towards Charlestown, there's 9 inches of snow.
Different story.
Right? And we're in the same county. So I'm like, my kids are like, yay, no school, because it's snowing a 45-minute drive away, and we're still in the same county 45-minute drive later. So I think that's I always think that's kind of interesting. But there's plenty of business to be had here in Nova and Loudoun County. So
yeah, I would agree. Yeah, it's definitely I used to live in Western Loudoun County with my kids in high school, and I was also in Eastern Loudoun County, so I understand that whole snow thing.
Yeah.
We're not getting much snow these days. I don't think you have to worry.
No. Well, Deep Creek Lake, which we were talking about before I hit record, they've had 2 feet of snow already this year. So
no way.
Yeah. So that's 2.5 hours. So that's a good thing for Wisp Ski Resort. So we at least have some positive stuff hitting there. But well, no, I wanted to thank you for your time today. I know we're going close to 45 minutes here, and I know we could probably talk another hour with ease, but I know you've got some appointments and I've got some appointments to run to, but I really appreciate having you on here.
I appreciate you doing this. I love your format and I love your intro. I thought that was
yeah, it's always a good time, and it's a nice way to share information with folks, and we say it every day. Like my job's not sales, your job's not sales. Our job's to educate people, right? We educate folks, we help them, and get them into a home. And I can tell you this, I've worked with a lot of folks through the years, and Carolyn, you're one of the best, and you know it, your team knows it, and Zillow knows it too, apparently, because you're winning some awards. So keep up the good work. You and I are overdue for a lunch or a drink, so we'll have to get together soon. Let's do it. All right. Thank you, Rob. All right. I'll talk to you soon. I will, and take care. Bye.
You've been listening to Seasoned for Success. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show, and we'll be back soon. In the meantime, make sure to like, rate, and review. And don't forget to spread the word and follow us on social media. On Facebook at Seasoned for Success and on Twitter at Seasoned Success.
Have a good one. Bye.
Till next time.